Hello and welcome to your first tutorial on JavaScript. So today we'll just talk about the main concept of it. It is basically a lightweight interpreted programming language with first-class functions. It is most well known as the scripting language for web pages and is one of the most popular programming languages on earth. It is used to add interactivity to web pages, process data, as well as create various applications. So mobile apps, desktop apps, games, and etc. And so let's start today's lesson by talking about the script tags. So in HTML, JavaScript code must be inserted between these script tags. And so go ahead and open up Notepad and get your HTML structure and add in the script tag. So just before our JavaScript code, we can easily go ahead and type in some HTML code in our HTML section. So I can write something like h4, so the size, and let's say JavaScript, and let's close our h4 tag, and so let's save and refresh. And as you can see, we get our JavaScript text right here in h4 font size. However, let's say we wanted to paste this in the script tags, and if we would save and refresh, you can see that nothing happens. This JavaScript is basically just this one, and so if I get rid of this, now let's refresh, you can see that nothing happens. And so we can check any errors by going into inspect. And as you can see, we have console right here. Click on it and you can see that we have an error. So an uncaught syntax error, unexpected token. And as you can see, it also helps us and it tells us in which file it is in, which we already obviously know, and in which line it is, which is number 8, which is this line in our notepad. And so let's say we want to actually write this h4 tag in our JavaScript. What we're going to do is we're going to type in first of all var, which stands for variable, and we can give it any name that we like. So I can name it t3, and we add an equal sign and our quote marks, so our quotation marks. And so now when we save, refresh our page, and you can see that nothing happened on our page. However, when we go to inspect and console, we can see that the error is gone. And so to actually see the text using JavaScript on our web page, what we're going to do is we're going to just add in documents.write, and we're going to give it its name, which is t3 right here. So type in t3, and now when we save and refresh, you can see that we get our JavaScript right here on our web page. And we can do the same thing just by getting rid of everything, and we can go ahead and type in document.write, and then in brackets what we're going to do is we're going to type in our code, which is h4 JavaScript, close your h4 tag, and so save, refresh. We still have our JavaScript text right here, just with this one line. And so let's get our old code back, which was basically this. And here, let's say I want to add the number 1. When I save and refresh, you can see that I still get my number 1 right here. So JavaScript 1 with the value. So we can see that the value in document.write is being shown. And so just to sum up, a variable is an item of data that has a name and a value, just like we have right here. So this is our variable, and our keyword, so the name, we named it t3, that's why this is our keyword. And so in JavaScript we can also comment on things, so we can make things passive, and we do this by basically typing in 2 slashes, just like this. and as you can see, it basically wipes out the whole line, and you don't have to put something at the end right here. You can just put in 2 slashes just like this. And so let's get rid of these 2. Now let's save and refresh, and as you can see, it made my code commented. That's why I can't see it on my web page. And so next up, let's talk about the alert method in JavaScript. And so let's just go ahead and type in alert, and in brackets, which will be its value, so in this case t3, so the name of our variable. And so when we save and refresh, we get this pop-up box, as you can see, with our code, so our JavaScript. And let's click on OK, go back to our code. And also notice that in our alert method brackets, we don't write quotation marks for t3. And so if we were to write quotation marks right here, let me just do that really quickly, like this, and when I save and refresh, you can see that we just get the name of the variable, which is t3, so the keyword, and that's not what we need. So let's just click on OK and go back to our code. And so next up, let's go to our HTML body tag, and inside of our body, let's create a div with its ID being, let's say, t4. So equal sign, 2 quotation marks, and let's type in t4, and let's close our div, and let's also write some text right here, so text. Then in our script tag, so after our commented area right here, let's go ahead and type in var, and let's say p1 equals, and when we write our equals, let's write in document. So after writing document, go ahead and type in everything that I'm typing in word for word, and which is going to be element by ID. So getElementById, and the ID will be our t4 ID, which is the div. And we're not just done with this, we have to also type in .inner HTML. And so let me explain this to you real quick, but before that, let me tell you that JavaScript is actually a case sensitive language, so please be aware of these capitals. And so what this method does is it basically returns the element that has the ID attributes with the specified value, and the inner HTML property is a part of the document object model, shortly abbreviated as DOM, which allows JavaScript code to manipulate a website being displayed. And so let's go ahead and move on, and let's get rid of this t3, and let's put in the p1 variable in alert, and let's also bring this down here. And so as I mentioned, JavaScript is actually case sensitive, so if I were to, let's say, change this b around for a smaller case b, and if we save this and refresh, and if I go to inspect and console, we will see right here that there is an error, and it says that document getElementById is not a function, and it gives us where, so in the js.html file, so our file, and line 11, which is this line exactly right here. And if I go ahead and change it, and if I go ahead and also save and refresh, we'll see that our code now works, the error is gone, we have text both on our web page and on our alert box. So you can easily go ahead and comment on your alert, and what we can do is we can make another variable, and we'll call it p2 with the equal sign and the quotation marks, and inside we can just easily write something like hello. And to continue, let's also write in our document.write. So for our document write, in just brackets, what we're gonna write is p2, which is our variable that we just made with hello, and using a plus operator, we're going to sort of join it together with t3, which is our JavaScript right here. And let's see what this does. And so as we see, JavaScript is right here, and it is bold with the h4 tags. So due to the h4 tags, it is bold. However, if we get rid of these h4 tags and we save and refresh, we're going to get them right next to each other. And to get them with a space in between, we add in a space right here, save, refresh, and we have this right here. And so we can also get this to be bold. So what we can do is we can add a simple HTML code to this, and so add in 2 quotation marks inside. Let's type in H1 let's do this time, and we need to add in another plus right here, so plus, and then add in another plus by the end of T3. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use this exclamation mark, and let's close our H1 tag like this, and close your quotation mark. And just so you don't get confused, this is actually an exclamation mark just as text, it's nothing else. And so now when we save and refresh, you can see that we get H1 font size with the bold feature on our hello JavaScript. And so basically this symbol is non-equality, that's what it stands for. And so we can also add in another P1, which is our div. And so right next to this, let's just add in a P1. And so when we save and refresh, you see that we get text right here as well, which is our div. So our 2 divs and our JavaScript code right in the middle. And so next up, let's move on to something else. And so let's add in another identifier, which is our variable and its variable value. So let's go ahead and type in var, and let's name this one P3 equal sign, and let's write, let's say 3 as its value. And by the way, you don't have to put a semicolon, but you can if you want to. And so let's have another one, which is variable P4, and let's give it the value, let's say 7. And so let's get a result. So lastly, let's type in var, and let's name this one result. You can name it whatever you'd like. However, this is sort of going to be a mathematical equation. So what I can do is I can type in P4 plus P3. And so after typing this, what we can do is we can add in our alert. So let's type in alert, and its value is going to be result. So the result of P4 plus P3, which is 3 and 7, so which should be 10. And so as you can see, my alert comes up and it says that the value is 10. Let's click on OK and go back to our code. And we can do the same exact thing with subtraction as well. So let's comment on this. Let's type in var result equal sign, and let's put P4 minus P3, so subtraction, and so that is 7 minus 3. Now when we save and refresh, we get 4, just like what it actually is. We can also do division as well, comment on it, and let's copy this, paste it here, and let's just change the symbol to a slash, which is division. So now when we save and refresh, we get this number with decimals, as 7 can't be divided by 3. So to move on, we can also do it with multiplication, which is just inserting an asterisk. And if I go ahead and save, 3 times 8 is 24, hence why we get 24. And we can also do the same thing with a percentage. And no, it is not actually finding out the percentage of a number, it's a little bit different. It's basically finding the remainder of the number, of the numbers divided. So 8 divided by 3 will get us a 6, and the remainder will be a 2, right? So it only will show us the remainder. So let's go ahead and see, and as we see, we're going to get the number 2. Let me go ahead and open up Paint, and let's try something. So let's say we had the numbers 20 and we had it divided by 6. So how many 6's are in 20? There are precisely 3 6's in 20. However, we do have a remainder, right? As 6 doesn't actually divide into 20. So the remainder is a 2, since 3 times 6 is 18. So 3 times 6 is 18. and we have the remainder, which is a 2. So that is basically what our percentage sign is finding. It is finding the remainder after division of one number by another, and it is called a remainder operator. Now let's move on and let's create an input tag. So after our div, let's go ahead and type in inputs, and let's give it ID. So let's name it I1, and let's add a button tag right after it. So button, and let's give it an ID as well, and let's name ID B1, and let's write something like click, and let's close our button tag right here. And in our JavaScript code, let's go ahead and comment on alert result, and let's go ahead and type in function, and let's give it F1 for example, and let's open our curly braces inside of the function, and inside let's type in alert, and in brackets we're going to type in, let's say, test or demo or whatever you'd like. And when we save and refresh, we can see that alert does not work at all. And so the reason why our function is not working is because JavaScript function is only executed when something invokes it. So it needs to be called somewhere for it to work. And so what it is just basically function. And in this case we've written F1 with the brackets, and inside of its curly braces we've added a alert. So when we call it, whatever is inside the curly braces will actually work. In our case, alert with the test. And so there is an easy way of calling function, which is just simply writing F1 with our brackets. So we're basically calling our function, so the alert, and if I go ahead and save, refresh, we'll immediately get our test alert box. However, we want it to work after clicking on the button, so we have to add in something else for this. So there is something called onclick, which we put into the button tag, and the onclick attribute is basically self-explanatory. It works on click, and so let's cut this out of here, and let's go ahead and paste it inside of our onclick attribute value, and you can get rid of the semicolon as well. And let's go ahead and save and refresh. Okay, and now when we click on our button, we'll get the test, and it won't be immediate just after we refresh the page, only when we click on the button. Let's move on, and in our function code, let's go ahead and type in a new variable, and let's name it P7. We'll go ahead and type in documents getElementById, and we'll take on the input ID, which is I1. For input, we have to put dot value. As you see, we're not putting inner HTML or anything like that, we're putting dot value. And so to explain this, value refers to the value of an input element or text area. So we have to remember that setting the value is normally used for input or form element. Inner HTML is for if you want to set the content of any other element. So it basically applies to every object that can contain HTML. So divs, spans, and many other things that we use, and so on. And to continue, let's bring this down here like this, and let's get rid of test, and let's write P7, so our variable, with the I1 ID. And so now I made a mistake here, let me fix it. And if we get rid of test and we change it with P7, so our variable P7 with the I1 ID value, and if I save this and if we refresh, let's say I put something like hello world like this, and if I click on my button, I will get whatever I put in my input field into my alert box. And we can write some other stuff, and we can click on the button, we'll get it into our alert box. And so yeah, that was all that I had prepared for today. Thank you so much for watching.